I write. It's just, it's so much more difficult for me. And I started one and then I started another one and I just start many different ideas. And I finally, on the third one, something triggered the one I'm writing now, or one that I just have written. And it's really a story. I mean, I don't know, like, what's the difference between an essay and a story? It's really a story about an event that um, um, where in my life that I was part of. And so I guess this is what I'll be sharing with you all. I believe in the power of being present. We all experience traumatic events in our lives, and how we experience them varies from every individual. The emotions involved could be grief, sadness, sorrow, depression, anxiety, anger, as well as responses like confusion, shock, and complete denial. During these times, people come together to console and support each other to try and relieve some of the discomfort and pain. However, everyone does not receive the support the same way, if at all. But being open to receiving, surrendering to the moment, feeling the emotions, I believe this is essential to the healing process. And I believe the human spirit of empathy and compassion and the desire to assist others when it's so unbearable and to lift each other up, to help neighbors and strangers, and to be present is what makes us human. And we see this on a grand scale when there are natural and man-made disasters as well as war. The traumatic events of September 11th, 2001 rippled out to all the corners of the planet via television, photographs, and the internet, and had a devastating effect on almost everyone. I happened to be living in Brooklyn when this happened. I had been working as a massage therapist for several years. Like so many people, one of my responses to this unimaginable event was to volunteer to help. On September 15th, 2001, I, along with other body workers, congregated at Chelsea Piers on Manhattan's West Side at 21st Street, where there was a communication center set up for the search and rescue efforts happening at Ground Zero. We were giving mini massage treatments to the many volunteers coming and going. In the late afternoon, several of us were approached and asked us if we had lost anyone we knew on 9/11, and then asked if we wanted to go down to Ground Zero to join some body workers that were already there and allow some of them to go home to rest. They specifically asked me because I had brought my massage chair with me from home, and that would be helpful with the sessions. I said yes without hesitation. Then the few of us were transported down to Ground Zero in the back of an army truck that had a few other supplies being delivered. It was one of the many surreal experiences during this time. It was a beautiful late summer day. The sky was blue. The air was comfortable. As the truck drove south, there were hundreds of people lining the sides of West Street like it was a parade. They were cheering and shouting and holding signs of love and encouragement for all of the emergency and support vehicles driving in and out of Ground Zero. Since the back of our truck was open, someone put a bunch of bottled water into the back with us when we were stopped at a traffic light. The uplifting energy of all these people was so palpable. It was overwhelming. They were all being present with their compassionate support, knowing there wasn't anything else they could do in this situation, but just physically show up with love. They were making a difference. We arrived at Stuyvesant High School, 5 blocks north of Ground Zero, which was the holding center for the search and rescue workers and many other volunteers. It was a communication center, as well as a place where meals were served, cots were set up in the gymnasium for people to sleep, as well as donations of food and water, clothing, shoes, hygiene supplies were all there available. Since the surrounding area was considered a crime scene, it wasn't easy to get in unless you were given clearance. Once you were able to get in, many people stayed for days on end. There was an area set up for massage therapists, energy healers, and chiropractors. There were a few massage chairs, tables, and a bunch of gymnasium mats set up on the floor. The whole scenario within this building was organized chaos. I look back now and feel that this area where we were offering mini therapy sessions was a dream within this nightmare, meaning that for 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes longer if no one was waiting, We would offer healing, caring treatments, allowing the person to momentarily let go and step out of the horror. We worked on firefighters, police officers, construction workers, and a multitude of volunteers. However, in the first many days, the fire chief would not allow any firefighters to receive any body work because in his mind, getting a massage was a luxury. It was by no means something to receive while in the middle of the most horrendous event ever, especially for the firefighters. And in reality, they were on the job working. As the days progressed and the mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion increased, something happened. The fire chief changed his mind, or he had a change of heart, and told the firefighters they could come see us on their breaks. It was the most surreal and humbling experience of my life working with the rescue workers, but it took a toll on me because I was at ground zero. I was in that energy. It was a super intense situation. Early the next morning, after having spent about 15 hours there, I left and got a cab back to Brooklyn. I felt like I had been in a war zone. When I got out of the cab, I heard laughter coming from a neighbor's house. It stopped me in my tracks. I thought to myself, I don't think I can ever laugh again. Once inside my apartment, I told my husband that, and then I collapsed into a chair with a stare of 1,000 yards. Truly, I thought, how could anyone be laughing now? This horribly traumatic and horrendous event affected the global collective. Being at ground zero intensified it for me. I spent more time at ground zero in the following weeks after 9/11. There were a few people I worked with that have always stayed in my memory. The crane operator was one. His company had been contracted to work with demolishing the remaining parts of the building sticking up from the pile. He said to me, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be seeing what I'm seeing. My job is to erect buildings, not tear them apart. As I gently did acupressure and shiatsu and massaged his head and back, he told me, I just want to get a boat. I dream to be out on a boat. He came back to see me for massage several times. I believe I was able to soothe his heart for those moments. To this day, I truly hope he made his dream come true. There was the firefighter who only wanted his feet massaged. He was laying on the mat on the floor. He didn't speak. He just wanted to be quiet. I honor this as I tried to imagine wearing the heavy gear and big boots and spending hours walking on the pile just blocks away. I felt that it was a very spiritual moment, just mindfully massaging his feet. We had fresh new pairs of socks to give to people who needed them, so I put them onto his feet as I finished. I know he could have laid there for days, but he slowly got up and thanked me for this moment of calm. Another time when I was using the massage chair, a slightly older firefighter waited patiently for me to be finished with someone. He sat down and I got him settled in the face cradle. I spent about 15 minutes working on his back, arms, neck, and head. He didn't say a word. When I finished, he sat up from the face cradle and said, you are an angel. You are all angels doing what you're doing here. I was so taken aback by his words. I said, no, you are the angels. I believe that being present for someone experiencing trauma will allow them to feel supported, to soften up, even if for a moment, and it may even change their life. And we can all eventually start laughing again.
That was beautiful, Leigh.
Beautiful, Leigh. Thank you.
Thank you.
And even though you shared stories from your experience, it was all very universal. And I love the fact of sharing, the different people that you literally were present with, that you literally touched. And that in itself touches me. And and through these years, I mean, where are we? 2020, it's 11 years. I mean,
21.
21 years, I can't believe it. And it's still fresh in our minds. Well, it's fresh in my mind. I don't know about other people, but it is still resonates. Hmm.
Yeah, those three people are so in my being, I mean, I see them and I'm there.
Yeah. Okay.
Ed Bubber.
Mm. Thank you, Leigh. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I like how you started when you talked about empathy and compassion and the desire to assist others. And this is what makes us human, coming together. In all disasters, we always come together. Until COVID, we always come together and we're always there to assist each other. And your story just, I feel it in my heart. I knew people, the man that I was dating at the time, he was at ground zero. You might have done a massage for him. You or someone else, but thank you so much. Peter Goldbeck, he's one of the Reiki practitioners who was there as well. So thank you. It was, you get speechless when you think about that situation, because we were all affected by that. And just being down there, you could smell the smoke. And when you talked about going home and you sat down and you just stared out for miles, you sound like you were in shock. And when you experience something like that, you're right there, you see it, you're working with it. And even though Reiki is one way, massage is one way, you're in the middle of all that energy and you're affected by that. You're human, and so you're going to be affected by that. And you continued, you stayed, you continued to be of service. And again, thank you so much for being there. Thank you for everyone who was there with you. And I'm glad that there were so many people, volunteers who were there with you to provide the services. The police, the fire departments, they all appreciated every single one of you, every single thing that you did. I don't know what changed the chief's mind. It could have been, I know that there was a nurse there. She was a nurse. She had been in Vietnam, and she became a Reiki master, and it's possible that she spoke to him and told him, because she recognized what was going on with the firefighters. She could see what was happening with them, and she knew that they needed your services. So it's possible that she spoke to them, or maybe Oz, Dr. Oz, he and his wife, they trained with Reiki, and they understood, or he understood, the importance of the healing that you were all doing. And thank you. I keep saying it.
Thank you.
Raven Keys, she was there as well. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a Reiki master. She started at the Equinox Fitness Center, and then the Family Center, and then she came down to Ground Zero. I don't know if she was at Stuyvesant though, I'm not sure, but she wrote a book where she talks about Reiki, and she talks about her experience, and she has stories about 9/11, being at Ground Zero. And I just want to share this with you so you know. I mean, you heard it, but not only did you hear it, but it is reverberated throughout New York City and probably beyond. And this is Captain Jimmy Gormley, Fire Department. And he was overwhelmed with emotion and appreciation for what you all did. And this is what he said. The amount of caring that these women put into us was, and then he broke into tears. Now I know what angels look like. Now I know what angels look like. You were
Maybe that's
all
who I worked
angels.
on.
Maybe
Maybe that's who maybe that was it.
Captain Jim, I'll send this to you.
Yeah.
I'll send it.
I just have no memory of names
Yeah.
wow. Oh my
How
gosh.
could you?
Those
How could
words
you?
I can't forget.
Could be. It's hard to remember the names when you in that space where you're trying to be present for everyone. Names just go out. You're just present, doing what you feel you need to do for everyone, and you did it. And it was just so powerful for so many people. And a lot of them never experienced therapeutic massage, never. And so you changed their lives. Thank you for being there.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you
love
for your service. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you so much,
Oh my
Leigh.
God. I love you, Barbara. Thank
I
you.
love you.
I watched a TV show last night, New Amsterdam. It's a hospital show.
Mhm.
And the premise of the show was there was a young boy that was dying of cancer. He was young, he was 12. And his last wish was to go to India to be in a Bollywood musical. And he wanted to go there in the worst way, and there was no way he was going to get there. He was only going to live a few hours. And one of the doctors said to him, "Why do you want to be in that Bollywood musical?" And he said, "Well, when I was getting chemo, there was an old grumpy man next to me getting chemo for a whole year. And I was watching Bollywood movies on his iPad with him. And they all had adventure, they had love, they had a hero." He goes, "But the thing about it was with the music and the dance, it gave us a few minutes or an hour where we didn't have to think that we were sick. We didn't have to think that we were going to die." So he says, "I want to die. I want to be the star of a Hollywood, Bollywood musical." So the hospital does everything they can. They can't make it work. The boy is just too sick. He wouldn't survive the 17-hour flight. So what they did is they transformed the cafeteria into a stage, and they got all the doctors and nurses and whatever patients could summons the energy, and they draped them with silks, and they put on disco lights, and they played music, and they rang cymbals, and they danced around. And the story ends simply with the camera panning towards his parents. And the two of them were smiling and dancing around. They were doing the Bollywood movements. So this young boy got his wish. He got his parents a few minutes where they didn't have to think about the horror. And that's what you did for those people. You gave them those few minutes.
Thank you. And that's a beautiful way to show us just from the program. That is so beautiful. That story of from the TV show.
Yeah.
It really does illustrate exactly what I was saying as well. So, I mean, it's to have those moments and be present for someone, even if it's a few moments.
That was beautiful.
Thank you, Nancy. That's awesome. Love you.
Good to see you.
Leigh, what generosity. Wow. Because giving so much, but what you were receiving or what you were experiencing was totally the opposite of what you were giving. So it must have been such an exercise in self-love and discipline to sort of say, okay, this does not belong to me, and this I can go and give, but the rest does not belong to me. So what resilience and what strength you have to continue and to have gone back. Wow, that's really, I salute you, Leigh. And then you have your smile back with all that baggage that you gave and you received, but the fact that you were able to not crumble is amazing. It's a testament to your resilience, your strength, your love, your connection. As RD always says, heaven, humanity, and earth. And when you were giving all these three combined to people who were the most vulnerable and who needed it so much. So what excellent excellent spirit.
Thank you, Leticia.
Hmm.
I do just have to say quickly, I mean, there's, much more to the story. I feel like in these times, there's something how we can become really strong when we need it. But then, when I wasn't there, it really took a toll. I did sort of have like my own breakdown months later, and reached out for help as well. And I actually met this woman who I'm still amazing friends with, who is a healer. But I knew I needed it because there was, after so much, I had to take care of myself.
Mhm.
Johan.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you, Leigh. This was wonderful. I could listen to your story forever. You are an angel, and I'm happy that you have your laugh back. And thank you for being present at that moment there, and to have the courage to be there for healing people and not running away to protect yourself from. Well, you were not in the first row, but in the second row, and must been. I cannot imagine what happened there. And the character of the person shows in such a crisis, and you show that you don't hesitate to help other people, and you can in this situation you must have been able to protect yourself for that while, and I'm happy that you got help later because you needed it. And the fire chief, well, it's absolutely no luxury. It's I think what you did is to soften the trauma of the people. You cannot change it. You cannot make it unhappen, but you softened the trauma. You gave them a stream of angel light. Let me say this, that they can see amidst all this chaos and violence that there's something else. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Those are beautiful words. Thank you, Johan.
I'd like to echo
I love you.
pretty much what everybody has been saying. I had a Reiki practice myself. And when you do that kind of, I was going to say hands-on healing, hands-on or hands-off, it doesn't matter. When you channel that kind of energy, it takes, people don't realize it. And I'm talking about other people who practice it. They don't realize what's happening. Of course, some do, but there are many who don't understand the energetics of it. And it takes enormous, enormous strength to do such work, because you can get very ill. I just in awe. You're amazing, and the contribution you made to those people that you worked on, the people that got worked on by everyone down there, was such a gift to each of those individuals, that you did in fact take them away for however many minutes you were working on them, because I can't even think about that day. I mean, it was horrific. It was unimaginable. And I think I've said this before, it took years before I could even look downtown, let alone go downtown. Thank goodness I had no reason to go downtown, but it was just a, you know, it was what it was. And for you to have done what you did is just so, it's beyond words. It's really beyond words. The generosity, the healing, the gift you gave those people, and that you gave yourself, excuse me, that you gave yourself as well. And yes, you definitely needed healing afterwards. We all need healing, no matter how strong we are. There's always a time when we need healing. And you're just an awesome, capital AWE, awesome human being, and just a contribution to all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
that was
Annabeth.
beautifully,
Thank you so
beautifully written. Yeah.
I
Thank
mean,
you for sharing
thank
that.
you. Thank you. I haven't shared this with many people, you know, I mean, and I just feel like, you know, it's right. There's no words to describe, but I wanted just to give some insight in what was happening, you know, at that moment. There might be like what Barbara mentioned, the book. But, you know, I haven't gone around telling a lot of people this at all. You know, I haven't shared. It was very personal and, you know, difficult for a long time. So I'm
Yeah,
very
so
honored.
thank you.
I'm so honored to be able to share it with all of you and just sort of let it out there, you know?
Sue.
Leigh, I don't know what to say to you, or maybe how to say to you what it meant to me to hear what you wrote. Being so close to when it happened, and every New Yorker has a September 11th story. Everyone around the world knows where they were at that moment in time, and you know, so one person's story becomes every person's story, so to speak. And you know, living in Brooklyn, we had the downflow of all of the paper that was glistening in the sky. And, you know, all these reminders for weeks past the time of the incident. And of course, seeing it during the incident. Wow. Anyway, what you did was angelic and selfless. And honestly, before you read this and before I knew all this, that's how I have always thought of you in our relationship. And now I'm so glad that you gave me an opportunity to put it into words. And I'm glad that you shared this, as I said, so close to September 11th. The further away we get from it, you know, it becomes so different. We see that with other things that have happened through history. The further we get away from it, it softens the impact of how it was on all of us. And we get to a point where we can talk about it differently. And in your case, you got to a point where you could share it with other people because you were that high up off of it to have the perspective. And so I can't recall who said, oh, I think it was maybe Barbara or whoever said, heaven, heart, you know, for 15 minutes, each individual who had your touch or the touch of someone else or the touch of your energy felt grounded so that they could have the wherewithal to go back to what they were doing. So that's where your greatness lies. Thank you
you,
for
Sue.
sharing that so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love you. Yeah, it's just really, really touching and emotional for me to hear all this.
Embrace it.
But healing too.
Mhm.
So,
Tammy.
well, Leigh, I'm not surprised. I think, like Sue said, before we knew this, that's how we knew you.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really not surprised, and I don't want that to say diminishes it at all, but I think you brought up a really good point of when you said the people along, you know, the highway or the road, just being there and doing what they could to show support. I think that's really important for us to remember, because sometimes we think that we can't possibly do anything like big enough for someone. Where just a small gesture can mean the world to them. So I think that's a really, really great reminder for us all that, you know, even a little bit of support and compassion goes a long way, just to let somebody know that they're not alone. You know, and like you said, it was just like the whole world was feeling this, you know, and like Sue said, you know, your story becomes their story, and we're all intertwined. So it's just, and I'm glad that you got to the point where you can share that, because I'm sure at this point too, it has to be cathartic for you as well, because it was just so intense. And I'm glad that you're getting to that point. And, you know, every year there's the reminder on September 11th. And like I said, I was so on a high from RD's birthday. I honestly, until I turned the TV on, it wasn't even in my mind. And yeah, you know, and to Sue's point, you know, as we go away from it, but I'm glad that we have that reminder, because, you know, we need to have that. And thank you for your story. I mean,
Thank you.
I adore you, and everybody else. I like, you are an angel.
Oh, I love you too. Yeah, the people lining the streets, you know, I had no idea. I mean, you know, it just, to me, it was like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? And that, you know, it really was just, as I said, it's just like, just showing up and just being, standing. You didn't even have to be screaming or cheering. It's just like, that's what people needed. That's what all these people going in and out of Ground Zero just needed to see that.
Mhm.
It really was so powerful.
Thank you, Leigh, for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. I know it, yeah, can't even talk. I have so many things, and so my mind's going in so many directions. But for you to say that you're not a writer, I think that was an amazing story, and it really touched on so many aspects of different parts of my life and different places I was in my life. And I really enjoyed the story, and I really enjoyed hearing another aspect of the story. We don't think about what you went through with those workers, or what they were really, when you were talking about him wearing those heavy boots on those rocks all day, and we don't think of that. So thank you for sharing another aspect. I don't know how you did it, being an empath. I can imagine you were spent after a few months of that, picking up and taking in all of that energy. You are an angel to be able to do that, and I think it's such a blessing that you did say, I have to go help and do something, and I'm sure you made a difference and impacted so many of their lives. So thank you for that. And I'd love to hear more about your story and about what you went through being an empath, taking all of that in. I can't imagine. I actually, when you were talking about the firefighter who wouldn't allow the firemen to get massages because it was a luxury, I completely understand his mindset, because he was in a crisis situation, and we don't have time for that. And it reminds me of when we were in our crisis situation, and it had been like a big, long, maybe 15-hour day. I hadn't sat down, and I sat down, and RD was like, oh, can you please, put in the essential oil into the diffuser? And I said, no, that's a luxury. Like, I don't have time for luxuries. Like, and and thinking of it now, it's like, oh my God, this poor man, what he's going through, I didn't have 2 minutes to put on the diffuser, but I was so burnt out that I just sat down and was like, that's a luxury. You don't need it, so that brought up that story, and I completely understand where that firefighter was in that moment. Like, you don't have time to do stuff for like that for yourself. And now we have a joke because the next day someone came over and RD's like, do you mind putting on the luxury? And she's like, what are you talking about? And he was like, my diffuser. And she goes, that's a luxury? And I was like, so it's a kind of a joke now, but I completely understand being in that crisis state. I was even thinking Leticia came, and I'm like, Leticia, I have to have a outlet with 2 outlets because I'm so sick of unplugging one and unplugging the other. So she went, and it was hard for her to find, but she finally found one with 3, so I could hook up my toaster oven and my whatever else it was in that same outlet. It was and the tea kettle and the fan. And the other day it burnt out, and it was actually like almost a fire from it. And I now am putting one into the other, one at a time. And I'm like, oh my God, how could I not have the time? Takes less than a minute to do this. But at the moment, it was so important that I didn't have the time to take one out and put one in. And so it's just these tiny little things that we don't think about when you're actually going through that crisis. So, and what you said too about somebody, just a smile. When I'm going through that, a smile. I can tell you a driver who smiled at me and just made my day. You don't realize, you think we can do nothing. You can smile, and that helps people or changes their mood or helps them through it. I think that was your essay, Tammy, right? Just a smile. You don't realize what the impact it has on somebody. So I loved your story, and it touched on so many things for me. So thank you, and thank you for all you did. And yeah, I loved hearing it. It also brought back, I don't want to keep talking, but for me, it was a feng shui event at Harvard. Do you remember? It was all these feng shui, Professor Lin, and they were all like, oh God, we have to go see Professor Lin at Harvard, And so I walked RD to class, and we ran into a friend of his, and they were going into class together, and she was with her husband. And she was like, well, what are you doing today? I'm like, I don't know. What are you doing? So I ended up hanging out with her husband for the day. And we hung out at a bar called Cheers, and we drank beer together while they were in their feng shui, lecture. And he was a firefighter at 9/11, and his mask would not work when he was going to the wreckage, and he couldn't get it to work. So he ran back to the truck. When he ran back to the truck, he lost his whole group of firefighter, his whole troop. They all were gone. So he has all that survivor's guilt, and how did he not leave? But if his mask had worked, he would have been gone. And I sat there for hours drinking beer, and he shared the entire story. And I will never forget that. And I am just so grateful that I didn't go to the feng shui class and that I heard his story, and he told detail and the amount, talk about stories of being there and what he went through and what they, because he had to go back afterwards when the mask started working, and what he went through was just amazing what everyone did for, and that event and how it touched people. And I kind of reminded me that story of you telling your story, because I really enjoyed hearing these stories of what, the inside scoop, so to speak, of what happened on that day. And like Sue said, none of us will ever forget where we were that day. And also it's cosmic, it's coming up because this is 21 years later. And this week, people were talking about 9/11 on RD's support group yesterday. And I just think that's cosmic that this has come up and that came up. And they're linking a lot of multiple myeloma to 9/11. And a couple people on his call, one person in particular, got myeloma from being they're even giving money now for people that worked below Canal Street after 9/11, but they are linking multiple myeloma to 9/11 21 years later.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Whew.
Mm.
Thank you for all that. Yeah, there is a World Trade Center health registry, which I'm actually part of. They asked, the people, yes, all that worked below Canal Street, the parameters. This started up 20 years ago, and they keep, I get information every year or so and fill out surveys and info because they're trying to keep track of exactly all these things happening.
Mm. So Linda, Roberta, do you want to say something? Linda. Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, thank you for
There you
sharing
are.
your story, Leigh. It was beautiful. My
Thank
sentiments with
you.
everybody. Everyone said same thing that I want to say. Same thing. It touches my heart to know that they thought of having volunteers doing the work of the healing, doing the work of energy work. I would never have thought of that. Honestly, I just, so that touches my heart, like you said, to hear another aspect of it. And you're a true angel. I don't know if I could have done it. Just to take on that energy, I don't know, but God bless you for that.
Thank you.
Really, really, God bless you for that. Thank you. Thank you for touching the lives of others
Thank you. Love you.
and being there. Love you. Thank you.
And I don't know how I really did it. When you're in situations like that, you just do something, and you're sort of in this other state, it's almost like another state of mind. And that's how we do get through trauma.
Mm. Roberta.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be here and hearing this amazing story of giving and receiving and being present. I listened to what everyone else said, and I certainly, feel the same way. And I feel that you are an angel, and I also feel that there is everyone you spent time with and gave to, they are somehow incorporated into you now, and that they must, we're sitting here and listening to this and listening to your experience, and I'm thinking that you are also a part of them in some way, wherever they are, whatever they are doing, you are, it's humbling because it's a connector, this, you gave, you received, you were present, you were angelic, and you are now a part of these people, and they are a part of you, mentally, physically, in their whole being, in their sinew, as one would say, which is really a beautiful way of looking at how the world, even though it came from such a horrific thing that happened, there is some beauty that came out of it.
Wow. Thank you, Roberta. That was really beautiful. I mean, it is the yin yang, right? And that's why we're here together as a group, because something not very good, the pandemic, brought us together, and we have these deep connections, right? We do connect with humans on the deepest level in these trying times. So I thank you. That was really beautiful what you said.
Just one thing, in tragedy and in these traumatic events, what I believe is our true humanity comes out. There were fire trucks being driven from all states of the Union to New York as a donation, because we had lost so many firefighters and, and trucks. And I mean, the devastation went beyond the buildings and way beyond the buildings. As you said, people lining the streets to do whatever they could do, put a crate, I can't think of the word, of water, on the back of the truck, just whatever. That's what we do. We do that. We do it without thinking. And it's a reason to applaud humanity and to appreciate our true humanity. And it's a shame that it takes something like that to bring it out, because it's there. It's an automatic, it's a given. We are born with it, and it comes out, unfortunately, at the worst of times. But thank goodness it comes out, because it's what gets us through. So thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Love you.
Love you too.
Leigh, yesterday you said to me, I wish I had your strength. I wish I could have strength like you. Well, I have reactive strength. Things happen around me. I root in, I stand up, I get a stiff upper lip, and I stand there and take it. You have proactive strength. To put a chair, haul a chair, and hop on the back of an army truck going into the gates of hell is a very, very different strength than just taking what comes your way. So don't ever say you don't have strength. You've got fabulous strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Wow, that I didn't even think of it that way at all, and it's so many years ago, and I still think, was that me that was doing this, and of course I moved in and continued with my healing practice, but wow, oh my gosh, those words are
same
really
as
powerful.
that fireman that lost his gang and then put that mask back on and walked back in. What kind of strength does that take? I mean, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Sue.
One of the things that I thought about, I guess when Roberta was talking, was how we talk about how trauma can adversely change our DNA. But I would also suggest that the complete opposite is probably true as well. When you experience goodness and kindness and love, that also can affect your DNA.
Absolutely. I do believe that. I believe that too.
And Beth, when you spoke earlier, I was going to say almost exactly the same thing, because I'll never forget during Sandy, we had lost our power, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things or what we're talking about. But and we're in the middle of a storm, and RD wants to go out, and I'm like, where are we going to go? Why do you want to go out? And he's like, let's go to the local bar, or let's go. And I'm like, it's what's happening. I couldn't believe he wants to go out, out of the apartment, and he's like, we have to bring humanity together. And I will never forget those words. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then we go out, and we were actually bringing smiles to neighbors and to other people's faces, and just bringing joy out. It was just so interesting how he just, said, oh, it was oh, we have to, something we have to do. Then Beth, when you said that, that's exactly what I was going to say. Leigh, you did that too. You don't know how many lives you touched. Every person you touched, you had an impact on their lives that day.
So I'm sure we could
Thank you.
continue talking, but
Forever.
But anyway, but I would just like to close before we do a little meditation. If you can stay on, that would be great. So there are two things that come to mind to me. We believe in magic and miracles. And also, I believe, actually, as Roberta was talking about, this was, and actually, it was a combination with Roberta and Nancy was talking about, New Amsterdam, about the doctor. It's the power of the heart. So talk about the chi transfusion of the power of the heart. We just transferred, talk about heart transplants. That's what I wanted to say. We just transplanted our hearts to be in the present moment. So, on that point, actually, I'm feeling very emotional. So, I think we just be in the present moment and just be. How about that? But actually, I'm going to turn off the recording and just thank you so much.